through the madness and the lies, as they're holding back the truth. No matter what they try, I will always fight for you. I will save your innocence. They are trying to remove. I am here at your defense, and I will always fight for you. Yes, I will always fight for you. I will stand here in the way, and I will not give up on you. I will shield you from the pain. In the battle on the field, there is evil on the move, but I hope that you can feel that I will always fight for you. In the darkness of the times, there's a light that shines the proof. It'll soon reveal the crime, so I won't stop this fight for you. Yes, I will always fight for you. I will brave every attack, and I will not give up on you. I will always have your back. So to every single mother, father, stand up for your sons and daughters. Do not back down, don't let up. You are all they have for armor, so make this a war to win. Look in their eyes and tell them that I will always fight for you. I will stand guard at the gate, and I will not give up on you. I will stop each shot they take. Yes, I will always fight for you. I will always fight for you.
The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
In the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, we have a right to life, we have a right to defend life.
This legislation is centered on meeting the needs of Idaho families.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
The courts have long held that our ability to transfer title on real property benefits society as a whole.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
I feel like we're back to an unappointed board that gets to decide who is essential and who is non-essential.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
And for me, it's about a couple things. It's about food security, it's about national security, and it's about preserving American exceptionalism.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
All right, we are live. It's January 9, 2024. I am Matt Edwards. Welcome to Idaho Signal. We have another stacked show today. I'm excited to get going. That's Representative Barbara Ehart who ends that montage coming into this about free speech. And that really is at the core what it's all about. And it's one of the reasons why this show exists. Is to exercise our free speech, to allow our legislators, to allow folks to come into the public square, if you will, and deliver the message. Activists, policymakers, all sorts of folks. And later on in the show, we're going to dive into some free speech law. We've got an attorney coming in to speak to us about that. So please stick around. But yesterday, the Idaho State Legislature finally got off to a start. This morning, actually, was the first RS. The first draft legislation was presented this morning in committee. But yesterday, it was all about Governor Little and his State of the State address. So what we have prepared are some clips from the State of the State address that Governor Little gave in the well of the House there. So we're going to roll through some of these clips, and then we'll bring on the State Executive Director of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, Maria Nate, to give us her perspective on Governor Little's speech, what he presented, his big, bold plans. But let's take a look at those clips now, and we'll be back right after we watch these. We got those. Here we go.
My Idaho Works plan proposes the largest investment ever in school facility construction and our maintenance match. $2 billion. This $2 billion investment in school facilities is $2 billion in long-term property tax relief. Let me say that again. Let's pass $2 billion in long-term property tax relief. While other states are digging themselves into record deficits and grabbing another shovel, we can invest $2 billion to modernize and improve school facilities in every district and every corner of the state, while delivering, did I mention $2 billion? I didn't know whether I had. While delivering another $2 billion in property tax relief to Idaho citizens. But we must do it right. We must provide for both new facility construction and maintenance needs of existing facilities. We should not punish those that have stepped up and invested in their facilities locally. Nor should we disproportionately reward those communities who have chosen not to upkeep their school buildings. We can't wait years or decades. The cost of construction is skyrocketing, and deferred maintenance backlog grows daily. Let's also ensure that we include all public schools. My proposal includes record funding for our charter school facilities also. Let's dedicate the $2 billion in school facilities now to modernize school infrastructure and address unmet critical maintenance. And on issues where it's important to take a stand, Idaho's led the charge. We're the first state to ban critical race theory in our schools. We're taking a stand that we should not divide our children. We introduced a new history curriculum for our Idaho schools, one that teaches students to appreciate and respect our country. We are a leader in education freedom. Idaho is a top 10 state for charter schools, and I'm bringing a bill this session to cut more red tape to support charter schools while providing taxpayers the transparency they deserve. I will continue to support a fair, responsible, transparent, and accountable approach to expanding school choice in Idaho, one that doesn't draw resources away from our public schools. To help curb human trafficking, my Idaho Work Plan calls for sending 2 more teams of state troopers to train and act as force multiplier at our lawless southern border, as we did with fentanyl twice before. Only now the troopers will learn the best tactics to respond to those who smuggle and abuse vulnerable people. They will come back to Idaho with better knowledge to stop these perpetrators in our state. And, as they did before, our troopers will debrief and train their law enforcement colleagues all around the state when they return. We are proposing to spend this year than last, about $200 million to be exact. Let me repeat that. My Idaho Works budget proposed spending $200 million less this year than last year. Looking ahead, we have a plan to keep Idaho strong. It's called Idaho Works. What we're doing is working, and the results speak for themselves. We must never get complacent. Idaho Works is about taking what we know has contributed to our state's tremendous success and not just prioritizing its continuation, but ramping up our efforts. We will work to raise the bar even higher because it's what our citizens expect and what they deserve from their elected leaders. We're the least regulated state. We're one of the safest states in the union. We rank first for income growth. We have delivered more tax relief per capita than any other state, and Idaho is one of the most fiscally responsible states, and we're recognized for our ability to withstand any economic downturn. We're number one for economic momentum. We're a top 10 state for the best economy, rivaling Florida and Texas. In fact, Florida, Texas, and Idaho are the three best states for small business. We all agree the safety and protection of our children is paramount. Protecting our youth and communities from harm is all our responsibility. To get more bang for our buck as the #1 state for return on investment in education, we offer parents resources to support their children's education outside of the classroom. And Idaho came in first for the best new open enrollment law because we expanded opportunities for parents to choose the public school that is best for their child, regardless of their zip code. The dominance of social media in the past decade is an obvious reason for the decline in youth mental health. Social media is addicting. It creates a forum for cyberbullying. It replaces quality time with kids' friends and loved ones. And it makes them compare themselves to impossible artificial standards for looks and lifestyles. To that end, I'm asking my partners in the legislature to pass meaningful reforms this session, like legislative bodies in Arkansas and Utah and other states have done, to better protect our children from the harms of social media. Folks, what we are doing in Idaho is working. You've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again and again. We are on a tremendous path, a powerful trajectory, and we need to keep it going. We must continue to lead the nation in fiscal responsibility, tax relief, and strategic investments to keep up with record growth.
Okay, so there you have it. Some clips, some segments from Governor Brad Little's speech yesterday. A lot to crow about from his standpoint. It sounds like he had a very long list of achievements that Idaho has, and it always begs the question for me. And all governors do this. I don't mean to single out Governor Little, but it is. You know, is it the Idaho way to just kind of feel like you're taking credit for everything that's happening in Idaho? I have never seen a governor, much less Governor Little, applaud the legislature and say, you know, hey, you guys, fantastic work. You know, thank you for sending me such fantastic bills that I get to sign. You know, that never seems to happen. But I want to bring in Maria Nate again, the executive director of the State Idaho Freedom Caucus, to get her reaction on Governor Little's speech yesterday. Maria, how are you? Good to see you. Looks like you're back at the Capitol today. What has been the reaction so far?
Well, I just want to start off by saying, Matt, that people need to remember that during COVID, billions of dollars flowed into the state of Idaho. And all of the corporate cronies had their hands out trying to get some of these billions of dollars that flowed in. And what you saw yesterday was an extension of that ARPA money still rolling around the Capitol, people still trying to get their hands on it. When they actually passed this bill, the first ARPA bill, it says right in the bill that ARPA funds are borrowed from our grandchildren. They acknowledge that all of this ARPA money goes on top of the, what are we at, $35 trillion of national debt that we're carrying. So for Brad Little to talk about how they're being fiscally responsible with all of these billions of dollars, this is federal debt, and we are all federal taxpayers as well. So we should absolutely be concerned about this laundry list of money that he continues to want to spend. Remember, a lot of these are one-time expenditures with no, like it's ongoing expenditures, and he's provided one-time tax cuts. So I don't know what happens when all this ARPA money dries up. We're headed for a cliff here.
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, the federal dollars dry up, and you're left with the bill, and someone's got to pay for it, and that's us. I mean, nothing is paid for by government without our hard work. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the biggest news that's coming out of here is this $2 billion apparently in savings in property taxes, which try to explain that to me, how you save money by not taxing people and just spending the other tax money to fix schools and whatnot. How does that work?
That's what we call funny budgeting. It's a tax shift. So they're saying that they're going to take it away, this $2 billion in property taxes, but they're going to shift it to where? To state taxes. So I don't really understand how he can, well, I do understand. He can just say whatever he wants, and then everybody just has to swallow it. So, I mean, but don't worry, because he did promise $200 million of what budget, not growing the budget by $200 million. I mean,
right.
Yeah, that was just a little bone that he threw to small government people.
Yeah. So in terms of the Freedom Caucus and how they're reacting, what has been the reaction from some of the members?
Well, we have a different vision for Idaho, and it's one of freedom and liberty, and it's also of fiscal responsibility. We understand as a caucus that the bill does come due. And so this is why they are adamant about fiscal restraint. It is so important to get control of these budget numbers. The budget is just growing exponentially every year. And nobody talks about that because everybody has their hand out and they're all getting something for it. But that is a key priority of the Freedom Caucus, is the budget. And then also restoring quality education. That's a key component as well. Government schools are a little bit of a problem in a lot of areas. And you have all of this gender madness that's being pushed through these government schools. We need to be able to provide families with true universal school choice, and the governor is clearly not supportive of that.
Yeah, and not only that, but accountability. Mm-hmm. as much as he touts how we banned CRT, we're taking care of the bathroom and the restroom locker room issues and all of these things. These laws may be passed, but these things are still happening. I mean, I personally have interviewed people I interviewed a mother who had a first grader come home crying that he didn't want to be white anymore because of curriculum and because of a workbook that they were handed out that displayed some of the atrocious behavior that was going on in the 60s and the 50s. But nonetheless, the takeaway from that was that he didn't want to be white anymore. And I've interviewed students who've had their speech silenced because they voiced an opinion about their classmates wearing distracting furry costumes to class. Or I've interviewed students who have been in a restroom where a male dressed as a male who actually claims to be a female, even though they don't present, quote unquote, present as a female, are in the restroom, and there's no accountability. Nothing happens. So and that's why that bill last year, and I want to get your take on this, when Governor Little talks about protecting the youth, what is it about that House bill last year about the libraries and the materials in the libraries? How is that not protecting the youth when you finally put in some accountability that says we are going to hold adults accountable who allow children to get a hold of graphic material. That bill last year did not ban books. It was holding adults accountable, and nobody wants to seem to do anything about accountability. Where do you think we're headed when it comes to accountability?
Well, there's obviously no accountability unless you're a big donor of the governor. I mean, they have him in their pocket, and so they whine and complain and say that we're trying to ban books, and the governor buys into this rhetoric, and he signed the bill, and then they orchestrated he vetoed it, right? And they couldn't override the veto. So I think people don't really understand how bad it is until you actually show them the books that are being given to your children. And when they see that, and I think that's why Senator Kevin Cook had an epiphany, because he found out that, yes, indeed, those books were actually in the library available to kids. If you were at a 7-Eleven and they tried to give that kind of content to your kids, the 7-Eleven store would be in trouble. But for some reason, we allow libraries to go ahead and distribute that kind of harmful content. And as far as DEI goes, they keep saying and claiming this, running this victory lap that they've stopped all of this. But I was looking at the website at Boise State right now. They are in the whole gender madness. They are being taught how to use gender pronouns in their signatures. When you go on to Handshake, if you are trying to get a job as a student, the first thing that comes up is what are your gender pronouns? And they are pushing all of that into our kids, into their brains. And we wonder why we have so many problems in this state. These kids don't even know what a woman is anymore. It's a mess.
Yeah, and that's why I don't know if you saw the segment yesterday with Senator Ben Taves, and they're debuting the tradfamily.org and giving Idaho something to celebrate, because when we're focused on all of these other distractions, it corrupts the minds of the youth, and it really sets us on a course for destruction. And a lot of people just don't see that. So, all right, Maria, I have to ask you this. I wanted to ask you this yesterday when you were on, but you tweeted out something or posted on X something about like the story no one's talking about, which is this agreement between the countries and is it the WHO or the WEF? It was something that was going on.
It's the WHO.
Yeah, the WHO. So shed some light on it. Give us some perspective on how that affects us all, especially here in Idaho. And is there something that the legislature can do about it?
Well, I think Senator Nichols has some bill that will take Idaho out of the WHO, the WHO. But what they're trying to do now is create climate emergency to give it the same status as the pandemic. And so they are going to use all of what they learned in the pandemic, how to control people. They're now going to just shift that into climate emergency. And people think that I am, being an alarmist or a tinfoil hat. Go watch the words. Go watch that tweet. Go watch the video that's attached to that tweet. It's their own words where they talk about how humans will not be any more important than animals. And this is where we are headed, people. They have figured out how to control us, and they are using all the national and international levers to do that. And they're going to force states to conform to all of this. And the way they do it is by withholding funding and threatening funding. They know how to control it. And we are so dependent on federal funding right now that it'll be very difficult for Idaho to say no. And everybody, they all think COVID is over, but no, lots of lessons were learned by the deep state, and they're going to start implementing those all over again.
What is the Senator Scott Herndon, member of the Freedom Caucus, is on JFAC, and we're going to have him back to talk about that policy, appropriations policy and stuff. But what is the tactic here when they're working with their colleagues on trying to? I mean, $200 million that Governor Little said sounds great, but it sounds like it should just be it's the tip of the iceberg of what is possible.
Right. What's the tactic? Well, you just have to shine the light on the budget waste that happens. And that's why these caucus members vote no on budgets. It's not because they don't want to fund the police or fund education. It's because there's a tremendous amount of waste in these budgets. And so they want to send them back and have them looked at. And the way Idaho budgets, if we can strip out the maintenance and operations from the other portion of the budget so that people can get a better picture, the more transparent we are about how Idaho budgets. My goodness, we have a huge surplus. We have a ton of money in the rainy day fund. There's a lot of money floating around this Capitol right now. And there's a lot of budget tricks that get used to hide that money, and a lot of language. And every time you hear the governor say investment, you need to understand that that's your tax money that's being used. I cannot stand when government uses words like investment. I just don't think they're looking out for the little man.
Yeah, let's get more into that. I want to keep you for just one more short segment, but we'll cut to a break right now and get our bearings straight, and we'll be right back.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Okay, we have Maria Nate here with us, and we've been talking a reaction to Governor Little's speech from yesterday. And one of the words that was used over and over again was, of course, investment. All these investments that we have lined up, and some say investment, some say spending. There is obviously a proper role of government and what should be done with tax dollars. But this is a huge undertaking that the governor seems to take on with these investments. Can we? Is there an easy way to sort of look and see what is the proper role of government and what we should be spending, and that these investments some of this stuff should be left to the private sector or more local or whatever the case is? How do you square those two? Oh, we seem to have lost. I can't hear her.
Oh, there we go. You were muted. I'm
Okay.
back.
Yeah.
We seem to have lost the point here about what government is supposed to do. And what's happening right now is that you have so many people that are dependent upon government programs, and that's by design, so that they become dependent and then they become enslaved by the government. So when you hear the governor use words like investment, that is supposed to make you feel good about the spending that is happening. And everybody's like, well, who's against roads and who's against children and who's against water? But when you start looking into the details of this, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars going to maybe not always the best use of the money. And you start going down the rabbit hole and finding out who's getting the money. And then you start seeing the lobbyists. I'll tell you, I was in the lobby, we call it the safe. I was in the lobby of safe yesterday, and as the governor was talking, and they were just eating it up because they loved it. But the guy was talking about how the dinner that they had last weekend for the governor was one of the most successful and largest fundraisers they have ever had for the governor. It was full of lobbyists. Those tickets were $750 per person. The guy that was sitting in the lobby safe talking had 7 tables from his lobby group. So
Wow.
There is so much money, and it's the lobbyists that are funding the governor. You have to know that money circles around. It's a continuous circle. And so they want legislators who who will continue that funding stream to these large corporations. So we have turned into a corporatist state here. And so that was a highly produced video that the governor, I've never seen a state of the state with that much of a highly produced video.
Yeah, that was incredible. It was the
Yeah.
first of its kind. It was first of its kind. I'm very curious to see how much that cost and what the how long that's been in the works, because a video like that doesn't just happen overnight.
No. And it was complete with emotional, heart-tugging stories and music, all designed to elicit a certain feeling from you. So all of that, I mean, it felt like a piece of propaganda to me, and that might be strong language, but when you're putting those kind of stories and you're packaging your statement with that kind of emotional drama, it's only to make you feel good about a certain way. It's like, look over here, and then over here they're doing the real work. So I just beware of the word investment. It's not an investment. You are the taxpayer. We need to get back to the forgotten man, and at some point we can't do it.
I'm curious when it comes to, for instance, the launch bill seemed to satisfy a lot of the large employers, a lot of big donors, and this $2 billion investment in new buildings and repairing infrastructure. Sounds like there's a lot of contractors, a lot of folks in that field that are going to be seeing a lot of more work. Is that what we should be expecting, to see government contracts come out to go to friendly organizations? I mean, friendly companies that have been donating money so they can go in and be the contractors or be the architects or what have you. I don't know. Is that what?
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Like that's
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
And how are they going to determine who gets the $2 billion? What do the metrics look like?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
It's troubling.
All right. Well, Maria, thank you for coming on. Thank you for staying over for 2 segments here. I appreciate it. Get back to the good work you're doing.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Take care. All right, folks, let's take a quick break. We're coming up on the top of the hour, and we'll be right back.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, we are back. We apparently have been having some microphone issues on my end, and hopefully we have that fixed during that short break there. But let's continue on here. We have the other co-chair. I guess that's why it's called a co-chair. The co-chair of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, Senator Tammy Nichols, is with us. Senator, good to see you. You were a guest, as they say, in the House yesterday after being there for many years prior. But you were a guest there yesterday listening to Governor Little's State of the State address. Wanted to get your perspective, wanted to hear what stood out to you, and where you think you guys are headed.
Yeah, it's always an interesting time when we have the State of the State address that's given. You never know what the plans are from the governor's office. So I kind of just go in with an open mind. And my first thing yesterday was kind of just the difference in past State of the State. We kind of had an infomercial, it felt like, that we were watching where the governor had this video playing and, just kind of propaganda, really, if you will. But listening to his address, I took a lot of notes yesterday while he was talking, and it just sounds like there's just going to be a lot of money spent again and not a lot of tax relief given to the taxpayers of Idaho. He says that he wants to max out the rainy day funds. And and it's great to be prepared, but you know what? In our current situation where we have inflation the way it is, and the prices that everybody's paying for food, for gas, I read an article not too long ago that the average family is spending an extra $10,000 annually just because of all the cost and the inflation that's occurring. So we really do need to be focusing on giving that tax relief that people are needing. On the radio today, when I was coming into work, they were interviewing different people calling in about what they wanted to see happen in the legislature. And I don't know how many times people said, get rid of the grocery tax. And that is something that we have been trying to do. And I say we, as far as the Idaho Freedom Caucus members and a few others that have been trying to get rid of that. And we just can't make any headway on it. But that is something that would really, really help Idahoans at this point in time because of the food prices. And so, a lot of it just seemed like a lot of spending. He had a few things that, a lot to education. Well, I really want to see improvement in our education, and we keep just throwing money at education. How about let's actually start seeing some improvement? Our students for reading and math are in a very low percentage, and we keep putting more money towards these things, and we're really not seeing that much of an improvement. So I would really like to see our education become better, and that our students are actually performing well. So those are some of the things. Like I said, just a lot of money being spent, and I know they're starting to go through the budget. And what I'm hearing is that the 2.2% that the governor's office is touting that the budget's going to be increasing really isn't going to be a 2.2%. If you look at all of the one-time expenditures that are going to be going on, it's more like 13 or 14%. But, I think they're trying to massage it to make it look like there's not going to be a whole lot of money spent, that the budget's not going to increase that much. But when in reality, you take into those one-time expenditures, those one-time, that adds into it, and that adds up. And it would be like us we'd be ignoring like 80% of our budget, our household budget. Like, we're just not going to look at that. We're just not going to pay attention to it. But yeah, it seems like a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something something that the governor said that I want to get your take on is that, and I believe, he says this in good faith, that he's a partner with you guys, with the legislature. And, in terms of constitutional duties, it's the executive's branch to carry out the laws that are passed by you folks in the Senate and the House. And so it always seems to be that the governor is presenting bills and writing legislation and writing programs for you guys to pass, and they rarely ever get shot down or negotiated. Right. I mean, are they negotiated? Have you ever been in any of these meetings with the governor negotiating bills before session starts? No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of pre-planning that goes into the legislative session, and the mindset for many in the legislative body is that whatever comes from the governor's office, then that's what we're passing, that's what we're doing. And we're allowing the executive branch to legislate. Well, if that's the case, then why do we need legislators? Let's just let the executive branch take care of it, and they can just make whatever laws they want, write whatever bills they want. And that's not how it's supposed to take place. So when he says that he's partners with the legislature, I always take that as a very loose term. He's partners with some in the legislature, but not everybody. So I don't agree with his consensus on that. It's not an everybody type thing. Yeah. And these historic investments in education that we've seen and heard the word historic over many previous sessions. This historic, and now what's going to be a historic investment in the school systems and in the infrastructure and the buildings and such. What is your take on all of this money being thrown at education, where, as you've already pointed out, we're not seeing a dramatic improvement in the quality of education, the folks that are being developed. There was somebody shared a video where one of the colleagues in the House there mentioned that homeschoolers, how can we be sure that homeschoolers become functional adults? And I don't know if that's necessarily exclusive to homeschooling, or if the problem is even bigger in public schools these days. But is money the answer?
No, money is not the answer. You can't spend people into being educated. I mean, it helps. I mean, you have to be able to purchase some things, but money is not the be all end all into education. It's how kids are taught. How involved are their parents? There's all sorts of different factors that go into play. And so money does not fix everything. And it certainly has been shown to hold true to what kind of performance our students are doing. And it's not just Idaho. We have this problem going on because everything's turned, well, not everything, but a lot of things have turned towards the DEI, pushing DEI, all the wokeism, all the stuff, the sexuality in education, all that stuff that's been pushed into our education system, which has pushed out the traditional reading, writing, and arithmetic that we were working on with students. And the governor kept repeating, that what we are doing in Idaho is working. Well, I don't see that. I don't see that what we're doing in Idaho is working, especially when it has to do with education. If that was so, our scores would be improving drastically, and our students would be performing better. So I don't feel that throwing more money at it is the solution to the problem that we have.
Yeah, and you're on the Senate Education Committee, so you're definitely that is definitely something that you're paying attention to and committed to and very focused on. So, all right, well, we're coming up on the break here with our time with you. Where can people follow you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to follow me is Nichols for Idaho. It's FOR. Idaho, and that's my website. And you can find me on also X and Instagram, Facebook under Nichols for Idaho.
Great, Senator. Thank you for joining us. I hope you come back.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
There's a saying in Idaho, Esto perpetua. It is forever. But the truth is, nothing lasts forever. Not without a fight. The Gem State is ours to fight for. It is ours to win. For life and liberty. For honesty and integrity. We ride together.
Okay, indeed we do ride together. Real quick, we've got these clips playing in between for these breaks, but that means we've got spots. We've got spots available for you to send in your videos or your messages or your advertisements or something. So get a hold of us, signal at citizensallianceidaho.org. Okay, more on the reaction from yesterday's speech by Governor Brad Little. We wanted to bring back Aaron Barnard up in Kootenai County to get a citizen's perspective, if you will, citizen journalists and mom, to get her perspective on the speech. So, Aaron, welcome back. What was your takeaway from yesterday?
Thank you.
Oh, I think there's a delay.
Did you want my perspective? I'll give. Okay, yeah. So I watched it live with my Telegram channel yesterday, and one thing that really stuck out to me was Governor Little's emphasis on public schools and the amount of money that he wants to spend for public school infrastructure. And that sounds great, but like the previous guests were saying, it's shifting of budgets. Where are we getting this $2 billion for the infrastructure? And I just have a problem with the whole funding of public education in the first place. One thing that really stuck out to me in the middle of his speech was his comments about wanting to really expand school choice, but only for public schools. So it was wild.
Yeah, do we have that clip? Is that the clip that we have?
We'll continue to support a fair, responsible, transparent, and accountable approach to expanding school choice in Idaho, one that doesn't draw resources away from our public schools.
That clip, I wrote it down line by line because that was so fascinating to me. Yes, we want you, the parents, to decide how your kids go to school as long as it's in public school. And we've seen over the past couple of years, and really for a long time before that, that enrollment numbers are down. For example, the Coeur d'Alene School District just had their latest school board meeting last night, and they actually had to say their enrollment numbers are down, not only in their particular district, but enrollment numbers are down unexpectedly across the state, which is really cutting into their funding that they're getting from the state.
Whoa, hold on. So did they give an exact number for Coeur d'Alene School District?
No, I actually had to do the work myself.
Yeah.
It's down. So by school within the district, almost 600 students just this year over last year.
600 less?
Yeah, than last year, which was down from the year prior. COVID kind of messed everything up, but everything is still down. It keeps going down, and the funding keeps going up and up. That's what I have a problem with.
Incredible. That's incredible, especially considering during Governor Little's speech yesterday, I believe he said that Idaho is among one of the fastest growing states because people keep moving here. We've seen a dramatic increase of people moving to Kootenai County, to Coeur d'Alene, to all these places across the state. Yet public school numbers are dropping. What explains that?
I'm not sure. Idaho has one of the best homeschooling unrestricted access in the country. I know a lot of people move here because of that, coming from very restrictive public school states. I'm not going to name any, but the public school system is, in my opinion, getting worse and worse. Like, I think it was Tammy Nichols had said that they're spending more money, but there is no accountability, like you were talking with Maria about. There's no accountability for where this money is going. They're just throwing it at the schools, hoping something sticks, and yet test scores are down. They're stagnant, and this is from before COVID even, so we can't use that as an excuse. And they're still giving more money. Now, because the funding for this year is down from the state, the school district, Coeur d'Alene School District that I'm in, they got word that the State Department of Education is actually requesting a supplemental appropriation bill to be passed in the legislature through JFAC to help recoup some of that loss from the lower enrollment numbers. So just all my friends in the legislature, just be prepared for that, because they want to, in those one-time spending bills, kind of recoup the numbers of funding that they're not getting because enrollment is down. And that's part of the overall fiscal responsibility that Governor Little is touting, that his Idaho Works plan is fiscally strong and fiscally responsible. But we're seeing that the amount of money that he is proposing to spend, where is this money coming from? And in my opinion, it is not fiscally responsible and is not what a good Republican should be doing, according to the Idaho Republican platform. So that's my problem.
And you posted an article on the meeting last night, and can you walk us through what people can expect when we look at this article?
Well, it's there's so many numbers, right? And not a lot of people, or sometimes the numbers get jumbled in your head. But basically, the estimated funding that the school district was supposed to be getting from the state is down. They're down 5 support units overall, just because enrollment numbers are down. But it is an unexpected statewide enrollment decline. That's according to the finance director's narrative about these updates. However, and so they're paying too many teachers for not enough students. However, they are seeing an increase in special education students. And so they need an increase for those projects and teachers. But The other they're just not getting enough revenue for that, according to them. The other thing is that their expenditures are up by almost $2 million than what they had previously estimated. And don't forget, the fiscal year just started July 1st. So we're barely even halfway through. If we are halfway through, I can't even do math right now. But we are already down. We were supposed to have an 800,000 surplus in our general fund budget. Now, because of all of these funding woes and expenditures, we are now down almost $800,000 in a deficit. So Coeur d'Alene School District has a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Hard decisions to make. And I'm sure the school districts around the state are having to do the same thing.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, thank you again for coming on. Such great information. You do stellar work. Remind everybody where we can follow you.
Absolutely. So you had my website. It's kcspectator.com. I do focus on Kootenai County. However, there is a state little flair to everything too. Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all KC Spectator. And yeah, we're pretty lively on Telegram. I kind of lurk on Twitter, but I do post my stuff everywhere. So you can find me at all. And TikTok. I'm sorry. Yes, I have TikTok. I'm sorry. But you can find me there as well, KC Spectator.
No, that's great. All right. Thank you, Aaron. We'll have you back. Have a great one. Okay. We're going to skip the next break here because I want to get straight to our next guest. We have attorney Kate Hartley from the Pacific Justice Institute. And what I'm going to let her explain what they do there at the Institute. But at the top of the show, I mentioned how important free speech is, leading out of what Representative Barbara Ehart said in our montage. And so, Ms. Hartley, it is great to have you on the program here. Can you give us a bit of background on what PGI works towards and what you're currently working on?
Thanks, Matt, for having me on. The PJI, Pacific Justice Institute. So we are a law firm that specializes in First Amendment litigation and parental rights issues. So we help folks that are having issues with free speech, religious liberty, and parental rights issues, primarily in schools, but across the board. And we litigate, we advise on any of those issues.
Now you had and hopefully you had some interesting local cases that popped up in the North Idaho area. Can you give the folks just a little bit of brief background of where you are with those cases?
Sure. So we're in ongoing litigation in a couple of cases in North Idaho. Again, a lot of people may be familiar with these cases, but a high school student said on campus that guys are guys, girls are girls, there's nothing in between, and was pretty heavily punished for that by the school district. Subsequently, in a school district employee, same school district, who attended a peaceful protest on behalf of that student was fired from his position with the school district. So those are both separate and ongoing cases that we have in litigation right now. And beyond that, I can't publicly update very much on that, but hopefully we'll get some news on those cases soon that can be shared.
Yeah, understood. I remember that day that the school bus driver was summarily fired. It was shocking to everybody on site that day. We were both there that day, and it was quite extraordinary. And to think that it happens up in this area, and especially in that small community out there in the Silver Valley. Well, I wish you best of luck to your clients and you guys on those cases. You also had mentioned that you're working on some legislation for Idaho for this year on free speech. What can we expect?
Yeah, a couple of things. I know you've discussed the Traditional Family Values Month resolution that Senator Taves is heading up, and really, I'd like to say that, from our end, Traditional Family Values Month really is a response to what we are seeing in our cases and the requests for legal help that we're getting. And there are a lot of people who are really being silenced and in some cases punished for openly expressing their positive view of the traditional family, traditional marriage, a traditional way of raising children. And so this resolution really gives those people a better platform, right? First Amendment free speech is all about viewpoint discrimination. The government cannot discriminate based on viewpoint. If they're allowing one viewpoint on an issue, they have to allow the other viewpoint. And we are seeing a lot of problems there related to people who are supportive of the traditional family and that believe it is the best way for people to live, to raise children, for our communities and our society. And so really this resolution, our angle on it is that it's a response to what we are seeing in the legal arena. Obviously, like in worst case scenario where we've had to file lawsuits because people have been silenced regarding the idea of the traditional family. So I know you've discussed this already. I appreciate anyone's support on that. We're really grateful to Senator Taves for heading that up. And we are also looking to help in presenting a bill that would allow for a private civil action under a couple of the Idaho Constitution's provisions. So one is the free speech clause of our Idaho Constitution.
Now, real quick, when you say civil action, are you talking about like people can bring civil cases if their speech is violated by the government or by other folks? Like what set us up, define that a little bit for me real quick.
Correct. So from a constitutional standpoint, whether it's U.S. Constitution or state constitution, it has to be violated by the government. So private entities wouldn't fall under that category. So in Idaho, the Idaho Constitution has a couple of provisions that we are going to target that would allow individuals a right to sue for damages if a government entity within the state of Idaho violates their free speech rights or their religious liberty rights. So those are the two sections of Idaho's Constitution we're going to target and just allow people to have a remedy for having those freedoms that our Idaho Constitution clearly says that we have. It would allow a remedy for individuals if that has been violated for them.
And what that seems to be a big sticking point when it comes to these bills in Idaho is that they want to say don't do this thing, don't violate a law, but we don't want to punish anybody for it. We don't want to hold anybody accountable. That seems to be an ongoing theme. That was a big problem with the House Bill 314 last year about the libraries and holding librarians and library workers accountable. They didn't like that there was any civil penalties or anything like that was in there. Do you expect to see some pushback on this?
Of course, I do expect some pushback. I do think, it needs to be reiterated that obviously we also have those exact same rights under the U.S. Constitution, and a way to hold government entities accountable from a federal law standpoint. So this would just be the state of Idaho saying, you know what, we want to reinforce that the citizens in our state have a right to free speech, no matter what their viewpoint is. They have a right to religious liberty and religious freedom, and that we want to guarantee that in our state and have some teeth, prove that is actually a foundational issue in our state, as it is, I believe, given by the U.S. Constitution, of course. So I think it's a way for the state to say, we cherish all views. Again, as a First Amendment attorney, all viewpoints should be allowed, and it doesn't matter if it offends somebody. We don't have a right to not be offended. We need open debate. We need open discussion. And we need, religious freedom as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kate, thank you so much for coming on. I want to make sure people know how to get in touch with PJI if they have if they feel that their rights are being violated somehow, their religious liberties at stake. What is the best way to get in touch with your organization and with you, and how can we follow along with your work?
Yeah, our website is pji.org. So you are welcome to go there. You can, if you have a potential legal matter, you can submit a request for legal assistance there. And certainly in the state of Idaho, they would get a hold of me, and I will be happy to contact anybody.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I look forward to having you back. You've been a great guest. I thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. Kate Hartley, everybody. Yeah, pji.org, pacificjustice.org. Find them on X and follow that great work. It was absolutely incredible, the two cases that she talks about that were happening over in Kellogg, where the student voices his opinion very, innocently enough, and and then when folks rallied to his defense, because he wasn't allowed to participate in graduation, including a bus driver who was off duty at the time, who was there waving an American flag, and then gets a phone call while he's there from his superior stating that he has been fired for standing outside the school waving a flag in support of free speech. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, you read about it happening in other countries, but to think that something like this would happen in Idaho is absolutely incredible. We're coming up on the end of the show here. I need to make sure that you guys are fully aware of a way to support this program, to support the work of Citizens Alliance of Idaho. Head over to idahosignal.com to find out how you can support and keep this show rolling. I want to thank our team has been stellar. All of our guests that came on today were great, and we only had a few hiccups with microphones today, right, guys? And really what it comes down to is connection issues. It's really just like, do people have the best Wi-Fi connection or data connection or whatever it is? You're in the basement of the Capitol building, you may not have the best connection, but we're gonna get through it. We're gonna make sure these things get out to you. Be sure to follow us on Rumble, on YouTube, on X, on Telegram, Facebook. We're clipping these things out. These little segments will be clipped out, and so that they're easily shareable. We need to get these message out. We need to cut through the noise and send out the signal. That's what it's all about. Thank you again for joining us. We will be back tomorrow. Do this again. Take care, everybody.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.